China is just about to help Tesla to sell more cars, but not because they wanted to do that particularly, but in ironic twist of fate, they're actually doing that by cutting down the incentives for all electric cars in China. I'll explain. This story is a little complicated, but again, I think Tesla's going to come out on top. All of this is coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric.
Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If you are interested in getting daily scoop of everything that's going on in the world of electric cars, well, this is the place. All you have to do is click on that subscribe button down there so you won't miss anything moving forward, but also, most importantly, become a part of this community. Okay, so as you guys know, China has been a great, probably one of the best places on earth to own an electric car, to start an electric car company, or to come in and sell electric cars, because their government is really pushing for it. And in China, which is still a communist country, whatever government wants, that's what happens. Now, there are many reasons for that. Of course, they want to be innovators and stay on top of the technology and leaders in the world in certain areas, or compete with the rest of the world. But in a lot of their cities, they simply just can't breathe. Like, they just can't breathe, and that's why this policy has been kind of important to them. Now, however, what's happening right now is they have decided that that's enough. They already have, I believe, 99% of all electric buses are in China. As you know, even Tesla is moving to China, building their inventory, because they've already sold billions of dollars worth of cars. Lots of startups right now that are all electric startups are either funded by Chinese companies or simply in China, like NIO. I absolutely love NIO. And so they have decided that they believe that their electric car industry can now walk on their own, but they've decided to throw. The incentives, I believe, was about $7,400 American dollars, to translate it roughly. Now they're going to be cutting it in half shortly, and that's significant. This is obviously something that's happening to Tesla and very soon to Chevy and Nissan here in the United States, with a very similar priced, if you will, tax rebate. Now they're also, this is kind of weird because this was very unexpected. They're also saying that they're going to cut, they're encouraging the local governments. And again, when your federal government is encouraging local governments, that means do it, to cut out all of those incentives at once. So really, this is going to be a very good test for electric cars and electric car industry in China, whether or not the industry can really walk. And I'm a little concerned, I'm not going to lie, because, I think Hong Kong and a couple of other places around the world, when they did that, the sales really plummeted. We still don't know if that's the case with the Model 3 and with Tesla, because it's the end of the beginning of the year, and Model 3 is really being imported heavily to China and Europe, so their sales numbers probably won't tell the full story. But this is definitely going to be something we should really keep our eye on. But there's one little caveat that they had to put in there, and it's interesting. They really, they're also trying to encourage their electric car market to innovate, and that's one thing that's going to tell Tesla. So before we jump into that, just want to remind you that this video and this channel is sponsored by Accelerate Auto, the extended third-party car warranty for all electric cars, including the Tesla Model 3, up to 125,000 mile coverage, only $100 deductibles. And if you go into the description of this video, you'll find yourselves on a discount code for $100, and they've generated that specifically for this community. Depending on which state you are, click on the link so you can apply and figure out if this is worth it to you, and let me know how that goes, because I think they are actually a pretty great company for our community. Okay, so let's talk about Tesla. And why they're benefiting from incentives being cut, right? That's kind of crazy. Well, with all of the cutting of the incentives, the Chinese government said, well, we're actually only going to give these incentives to cars, for the cars that have over 250-mile range. Now, by the way, there are a couple publications that are also reporting this 250-kilometer range, but I believe it's 250-mile range, which actually will help Tesla. All Tesla models can be purchased with over 250-mile range. As a matter of, it's a lower standard range battery models that still have about 220, 230, but most are now getting up there and even into 300s. So, and there are very few companies in China that do the same. Now, I've mentioned NIO. I absolutely love NIO and everything, but their car will not qualify. As a matter of fact, most Chinese manufacturers will not, if not all, but definitely most, will not qualify for this. And the only car company that's really going to be benefiting from this is going to be Tesla, at least for a while. Now, that baffles me a little bit because Tesla, they're a foreign company technically still. They're not making cars in China yet. So I'm really confused by this. I mean, good for Tesla and good for any manufacturer that has that kind of range. But at the same time, I understand this is the way to innovate. And since the government is helping with that, they should be able to say, hey guys, enough of screwing around. Please make sure these cars have a decent range. And I personally think decent range is over 200 miles. But if they think it's over 250 miles, by all means, I definitely welcome that. So you will see companies being pushed for it. The only thing that I think is not very fair is that they're doing this without much of the warning. So let's really quickly go over positives and negatives. All right, so the positive is obviously, well, let's start with the positive for Tesla, which we know what it is, right? They'll be able to get those incentives, even though it's still cut in half, but still they'll be able to get those incentives for selling those cars. At the same time, it will be nowhere near the tariff that they have to put on there. So their car, or Teslas are the most expensive in China because of the tariff, right? So that incentive is not exactly going to make up for it. So, but nevertheless, it's an advantage. But secondly, is exactly what I just mentioned. This, all car manufacturers know that China is a major market, and they are really demanding that car manufacturers start switching to electric cars. And so if they know that, hey, now we've got to do better with the range. You hear me, BMW? I'm talking to you, and definitely Toyota and Honda. But then that means that you need to do better with range. And I think that that's a great thing, though. Those are definitely big, big positives. Now, the negatives are, just like I've also mentioned, is that, there wasn't much warning for these companies. They can't just say, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't know it's going to be 250 miles. We'll just do it tomorrow. No, it takes a while. You have to develop battery technology, and I mean, some of them can be 2-3 years away from being able to do this. And it's kind of unfair to just kind of throw them under the bus. Maybe though, even though there's 99% chance it's an electric bus in China, and kind of give a fair advantage possibly to another manufacturer, even though I don't really think it's going to be an unfair advantage for Tesla, but nevertheless, they could have probably handled it better. And I'm a little baffled, obviously, by the fact that they're completely going to take the local government incentives away. And of course, if anything, obviously, the negative is that the incentives is being cut. And I don't know what the reaction is going to be. I mean, it can be a positive reaction, right? We just hope it is going to be not as much of a negative reaction, and hopefully the sales won't dip too much. So I am definitely concerned. We'll see, and this, depending on what happens here, obviously other governments will follow. And if it doesn't go too badly in China, I see how other governments will start doing the same, and that. Obviously, and I'm torn about this, and let me know in the comment section what you guys think as well. But obviously, I want this industry to mature, and the car makers to be able to walk on their own. But at the same time, I'm not really sure if this is the right time, at least for right now. By the way, let me give a quick shout out to one of my newer Patreons, Kirivan Yam. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon. I know you've been a Patreon before, and upgraded again. This is the only place where you guys can watch me live, and if you want to join my Patreon community, boom. Patreon.com/E4Electric. You don't actually have to type it in. It's also in the description of this video. So thank you so much to Kirivan and my entire Patreon community for supporting this independent channel and contributing to its success. All right, guys, looking forward to the comment section. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.